right, ladies and gentlemen, AI isn't short on hype. Let me tell you about that. What it's short on is disciplined operator level conversations inside real software businesses. Today's episode 5, is for founders and owners who want to understand what AI actually means for their product organization, not in theory, but in real execution. Welcome back to Built to Hold. I'm your host, Sylvain Perrier, group leader at Vertus. This podcast is for founders building vertical market software companies meant to last and who want to make thoughtful, durable decisions without chasing noise. Today's episode is called AI in the Product Organization, Building, guess what? Not experimenting. This isn't going to be an episode about tools and how to draft prompts. And it's certainly not going to be about speculation. It's about how AI is changing product discovery, roadmap prioritization, engineering velocity, QA, and guess what? Release management into production. And what that means for owners who care about margins, durability, and long-term value creation, not only for their business, but also for the customers that they serve. I'm joined by an expert today. I know it. I've known him for quite some time. His name is Jeremy List. He's the founder of Ervian. He's a product leader with deep experience building and modernizing software organizations. And guess what? He understands what it means to move from an idea to an actual product that ships in multiple complex environments. It's with an S, and for customers all over the world. Jeremy, before we dive in, welcome to the show.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Can you just describe for us, what you're seeing out there from a product perspective in the world of AI? I mean, there's been so many changes.
There is. It's almost overwhelming. The last year has. Well, I just think about it. The way that I had done product a year ago is just fundamentally different than the way that I do things today. And I can only imagine in another year, what the changes might be. It's been moving so quickly. And I think there's just so much advantage out there for new ways of doing things. Like if you have a vision, if you have if you have a solid vision or foundation of what you're trying to accomplish, the amount of support and tools out there to help you realize that vision, it's just astronomical. So yeah, it's been a really fun year, and I'm excited for what 2026 might bring.
And so I know you're a prolific writer. You get up early in the morning, you're cycling, and you record. I know because you shared your process, right? You're recording yourself talking, and then you translate that into some great LinkedIn posts.
Thank you.
And I know their LinkedIn posts are punchy, and I say they're punchy in the nicest way because they actually forces you to think, oh, this is a really different way of looking at things here. And so how has some of your AI tool sets changed your profession?
Yeah, no, that's a great question. But also, I think it's also really important to touch on the fact that I used to write. I used to love to write. And I stopped doing it because of a time issue. Like, you get busy, work comes in, your kids come in, all that. And I recently realized like I've got a lot to share. I've got a lot that I would like to impart on the world. And now time isn't an issue anymore. And that example that, I had shared with you some time ago where I was just on my bike and I was training and I had an idea. So I transcribed what I wanted to say and then I refined it and then I posted it. And that was a bit of a eureka moment for me, realizing that, and I think that's really like, maybe it's even a pattern or a theme for what we'll be talking about today, where the way that you used to do things, it doesn't have to be like that anymore. And that was one of those situations where I was like, hey, like there's nothing stopping me from writing a blog article right now. Like I can actually literally just transcribe what I'm thinking, even though I'm out of breath and the fans on it can barely hear me, but we got it done. But then to come back to your actual question on like what has it done for me and I guess the product management industry. I think I'd break it down into different sections, because each one I think is very different. And well, me, I've always been the product manager who had a strong UX focus. So UX was my starting points in when I was a youngin, and I have a deep passion for the user experience for design in general, and so I was always that product manager. And so from a discovery standpoint, where both UX and product management, it's very core to both of those disciplines. I think that's still relatively like you just need to be good at that. So those are solid foundations. That there is some help with AI. Like I think the tools, it has such a wealth of knowledge that you can ask the preliminary questions, but it's not going to be able to tell you what does this user need. Like how do I solve this problem? Like you still need to do the work. And I would honestly say that that's the area where if you're going to build a skill set and if you're in this field, get good at that because that's the thing that AI just can't really displace you. You need to have a vision. You need to know what you're trying to accomplish. From the UX research standpoint, that it's you honestly AI has done that well for a while. Like it looks at all the data. If you have any questions, if you want to know best practice, like what does Nielsen Norman think about this pattern? That research that used to take quite a bit of time now takes seconds. So if you want to know what best practice is, what the leading trends are, why I should use this component over another one, honestly, that data exists. You should be using those tools. The design piece, that is, it's getting better. I would say it's still not completely there. You still need to shepherd it quite a bit. Like it's not going to take your design job tomorrow, which I think I know a lot of people who are very, or maybe very happy to hear my perspective on that. But it is getting better. I think all of them are getting better. If you have a vision, you can articulate it. The models are getting quite good at being able to realize that. Um, and then there's the requirements and documentation, which, I reflect when I was with eBay, I would spend a large portion of my time basically documenting what the user story would be, documenting what the acceptance criteria would be for these requirements. And and this is the piece where, honestly, AI very early on came in and was able to catch things that maybe, would have been missed to begin with. So I remember having those moments where it's like, oh my goodness, like not only can it do it in a fraction of the time, but it's also catching things that I'm missing. And so and that was really one of the moments when I started using it as a true partner and sounding board where like I would be iterating on it. But the requirements and documentation piece, if you're still writing those by hand, yeah, I'm not really sure why. That would be something that, you should be looking at leveraging tools a little bit better. But so I guess different value in different areas, but it's a spectrum for sure.
And so I'm gonna just pontificate here, right? I think that for the longest time that and you gave the great example, right? Spending a lot of time writing user stories when you were at eBay and so on. And I'd also add to that, just watching my team of product managers and owners at when I was at Mercatus, the amount of time it takes to just get everything set up, communicating it internally with engineering and all those things. Your time is taken away from customers, the end user. So are you finding now that you've kind of retooled your process? It's enabled you to go back to the well, understand the value proposition, explain the why, work with the marketing teams, be able to really focus on what the end customer wants.
Yeah, I do. I think, well, but I think it's two levels. And let me see. I'm kind of doing this on the fly, but I'd say like 25% of that time can be spent on defining a better vision.
Mm.
Basically, coming up with those hypotheses and trying to and spending more time researching because again, the tools exist now, and I think the irony is that while AI is making it so much easier to do it, it doesn't mean that it's happening like less or faster. Well, actually, it's happening. It's faster to do it, which means that it's easier. And one of the common patterns in UX is that if you make something easier, it will happen more often. And so I believe that we're actually having more thoughtfulness at that beginning phase. But honestly, I think the other 75% is like once you have that and you have a hypothesis, what I think the biggest gift it's given to our industry is that we can validate things so quickly now. And it's not a matter of jumping into Figma and like trying to hack a prototype together. I can literally have a prototype of what I was thinking in a few minutes. And it's good enough to put on, like I'm working with a client right now where basically we're hacking together a new concept for a product and, spinning it up. Yes, I spent some time on a design system but it's the amount of time that it takes to put these very rich experiences that like are even hitting APIs where you can have real AI, but and doing optical character recognition and doing audio transcription and all these things that you can just hook up to these services and it's actually working. And that stuff it takes no time now, and so you can actually put these very real experiences in front of users which would have taken literally months, only a year or two ago. And so that I think is really unlocking a lot of opportunities for just validation. It's like, if I put this in front of a customer, would they use it? And if you have all the bells and whistles, but if they don't actually press the record this audio and say, okay, well, that maybe we need to go that other way, but you can actually test that and you can do that very cost effectively now.
Well, I love it because it removes the risk and the ambiguity that a customer must feel in trusting you in those first iterations of trying to build something, they've given you the money, they've signed the contract, and they hope you're gonna hit the mark. Now, like, you're shifting everything to the left, and you're focused on early stages even before a full engineering team kinda gets involved here, and that's just, amazingly different than what we're used to.
Yeah. And the other amazingly different piece is as well, and I don't claim to be actually, sorry, I've said this a few times today. Actually, I don't claim to be a developer, and yet I'm developing software, which is like again, I don't want to get into that debate, but I also we're in a place now where the artifacts that I'm creating are not throwaway. Like
Mm.
the artifacts that I'm creating are, and presuming that like I built with React, and these are artifacts that if we prove that it works, you don't need to give it to your front end team to rebuild. You take this, and if we can agree on doing some refinement, possibly some refactoring, but it's 90% ready to go. You just need to hook it up to your production level API, your database, etc. And now we actually have something that's working code. So that's changing as well. And I do expect that over the next, well, very shortly, we're going to see people just wearing more hats because there's no reason why a designer can't be committing code. And the developers obviously will review the PRs, but again, there's no reason why they can't express their intent and have an agent be actually solving that problem in some ways. And I think we'll see a lot of that. I think we'll have a lot of people wearing different hats, and I think we'll see developers also being product managers, and the good ones they'll almost do everything, and because they have that time.
So we're gonna go back to a more collegial, democratic process of building technology with more generalist, I'd argue still some form of
Absolutely,
specialization, right, around security and maybe some other things,
completely
but
agree.
a more inclusive process where everyone kinda is around the value prop of, "Hey, what problem are we really fundamentally trying to solve here?"
Yeah. No, and I'm glad you touched on it because yeah, I should be clear. I'm lucky enough to be in the position where I am because I do have a lot of experience in product management, and I've been lucky enough to work beside developers for a very long time. So I know architecturally what looks good. I know patterns that look bad, so I can identify those things, which gives me a bit of an advantage. But you're absolutely right. The person responsible and accountable for the quality of that thing has to be there. Like you still need a designer who knows what good design looks like, and you still need a product person who knows why this is valuable for the business. And you still need a developer who's like, this code is horrible. Here's how we need to refactor it. And these are the things where actually I've developed a framework for my kids for school where the different levels of asking AI. And if you think if you don't have any idea what a good answer will be, then maybe you shouldn't ask. So, and if you're pretty confident that you can qualify that answer, but you're not certain at that point, ask. But yeah, and see what you get. Anyway, I could share the framework, but basically, I was sharing with the kids that yeah, if you need to have a concept, you need to actually have some idea of what you're trying to ask AI, so that when you get something back, you're not just being like, okay, blindly, I'm going to accept that. Like, you need to know what you're really getting. And then the second piece, like for example, math. And then if once you get that answer back, if you feel like you're able to know if it gave you the right answer, then you're in a good spot. Like that, at that point, yeah, ask the question, and then because you've got this tool that can genuinely help you. If you have no idea what the answer is going to give you back, then you shouldn't be asking it because there's no real reason. So, and then best case scenario is, yeah, you're a professional, like you can jump in and if it made that mistake or not. Yeah, there's different levels, and I think sometimes you just have to be in a position where you put trust into it. There's risk there. Best case scenario is you can audit the work that it does, and I find that's where success lies, right? When you know what good looks like, and you can just leverage it to get there much faster.
Well said. I mean, how does this, I mean, in the time that you've spent, and I know you're learning, you're a lifelong learner, you're learning new things every day. You're not afraid to experiment. I think you are running OpenClaw. I mean, and so you have an army of agents that are supporting you in your process, all these various things. I'm still in the early stages of doing some of those things, but I've wanted to hear from your perspective, considering the knowledge that you've gained, what you've seen work and not work. How is this influencing you today? If you were put in a vertical market software company and you're brought in to organize the product team, does that influence how you're building out that infrastructure for product? Is it more about a mixture? Is it the same roles? Is it the same people, or is it more tools? How does that work?
Yeah, no, I think my position is like I run my company the way that I run it for various reasons, but we're a small shop, and so um, I explain also. I'm just super excited with with the industry where it's going. But I do fundamentally believe that organizations need to have representation for each one of those functions. And the the OpenClaw team, I'm always refining it. But the team that I have again is set up like a company. And well, as I just mentioned earlier, with can I actually validate the work that's given for all the capacities? No. Like I have a lawyer on staff basically. Um, I've I've researched best practice for what a lawyer would need to do at a small consultancy like myself, and how they would function. But to be honest, I know that I'm putting a lot of faith in that, and I can't audit that work obviously because I'm not a lawyer. I haven't been trained in that, and so ideally, I would have somebody on my team who could audit that work, um, and that goes across the board basically, where there's specific roles where I know very well. I've been training my product manager. I've been training my designer, and I've been training them based on the models and methodologies that I've learned over my career. Again, development and QA, I'm closer to, so I feel a little closer. But basically, it's a spectrum. There are the ones where I think I'm at the A tier, and there's the others that I think I'm at the B tier, and there's others where I'm at the sort of the C tier, and I'm like, you know what? I know it's better than I could do by myself, but I need to be very conscious about that. So, but again, if I'm setting up a company, I don't think AI takes over a practice. I think it really enables them. And again, I would come back to make sure that you have the experts being able to qualify the work that it does, and you do that effectively.
Yeah. So you're essentially, speeding up velocity, being able to deliver more features to market, I think is probably a fair example. I'm asked this question quite often, right? I mean, in my practice as a group leader here at Vertus, I use AI in the context of speeding up my day to day. So some of the more mundane tasks, fetching data to read, or summarizing things, or assisting in content development, all those great things. But I want to hear from your perspective. What's the first thing that a VMS owner or a product person within that context, what could they just generally try today just to help them out?
Yeah, that's a good question, and I think it's a bit unique to the person. But I would definitely say find a use case that you are generally struggling with, like something that takes time away that is kind of busy work. Like and I think my best recommendation to anybody is just give it a try. Like with my last team, I was managing a team of designers, and we would on our team meetings we would talk about what's a use case, and the team came up with a couple of great ones where I think fundamentally we're just in this place where we assume that it can't do it just because it couldn't do it before, and I think it's a mindset shift where if we just challenge everything, if we question everything, then you can get to a place where it's like, hey, maybe it could take this off my plate. And so again, I don't know where the pain points would be, but see, for my OpenClaw instance, I've got outbound sales, and so I've got a product that I'm developing, and I'm asking for who is the most relevant. So one drop one a day because I want to validate them. Who is the next best person that I could reach out to, based on because I'm doing a product that is around AI privacy. So it's basically a tool that stops personal identifiable information getting to AI tools before it gets sent. And so I'm looking for AI consultants. And so I'm trying to reach out personally. And I don't want to spend a day doing it. So every morning I get another person dropped, and I'll just reach out on LinkedIn. And I'll be authentic about it. Like it'll be me, but I don't have the time to look for them. So that was one thing. It checks my email for things that I can't send emails, but it can check them, it can read them. And so that is, again, a thing that I just kind of dread in the morning where, it's just all going through all the spam. Is there anything that I actually need to look at? So it gives me a few things, and it reminded me of our meeting today. And so it got me on track. And I think there are like 1,000 of those things, but I think it's just look for those opportunities and look for the areas where you think there could be an opportunity where it could be a fit. Because I think every team, there's got to be 100 different examples of that that you could just do a little bit faster. And do you really want to be spending your time on that, or would you prefer to focus on the vision for 2026, or like where the fun stuff?
So when you look into your crystal ball, and
Yeah,
let's just pretend you have one.
yeah,
If you pull one out, I'm gonna have to like, no, there is none. Okay. But if you look into your crystal ball and you think 5 years out from a product perspective, where are we going here, right? From an AI perspective.
yeah. Um, it's getting better every day. Um, I don't know the answer there. I do know that we're and it can get doom and gloomy, and it can get really inspiring, and then I think I'm kind of straddling that line, and so to be completely honest, I don't really know. I I like to say that I feel like I'm one of those bison that are just running toward the edge of a cliff in some ways, where it's like this is the best run I've ever had. But I know that at some point AI literally could take, like, I think if you're sitting in front of a computer, you are at risk of being disrupted. I think it's just the reality of where we are. Who knows? In 5 years, the robots may be the exact same thing. So I really have no idea how it ends. But I do know that I've taken the position that I want to be the buffalo out in front. Like I want to be enjoying this run. I want to have a clear view out in front, and so I'm gonna get into it. But the other thing that I can say, well, even that product that I was describing a little bit earlier, uh, the last year has been an amazing journey where I've started vibe coding or spec coding, and at every single model, I would hit a wall where there could be something that I could not get above, and I couldn't advance, and I just didn't have the technical skills to be able to go farther. Um, since Opus 4.6 dropped, I haven't been able to hit a wall. Everything that I needed to accomplish, it's been able to solve those problems and give me working code. Again, I can't qualify the syntax, and if it's extremely well written, although I've heard that it is pretty good. Um, but it works. And so my philosophy is I'm going to prioritize working code over beautiful code. And if I can solve a problem, then I'm going to do that, especially if I can do it by myself, because it's fully enabling. And again, I I I truly love that. It was a super inspiring moment for me when I realized that these tools could now enable me to like realize some of my visions. Um, and I think every industry is going to go through that. You're going to be at a place now where AI can just do a lot more of these things, and so that's why I think we're going to keep on coming back to the valuable skills to keep and hold, or have a clear vision, understand your consumer needs, your customer needs, make sure that you're solving problem. I think with the barrier to entry going so low, because, for example, I could probably build a competitor to ADP tomorrow, but I don't have the reach. And so that's the thing. Like, how do you become 10x? And it doesn't really matter that everybody can build these things. That what matters is the relationships with your customers and keeping those. And so if you have reach and you have distribution, hang on to that, because that's going to be worth so much when everybody can rebuild your product in a couple days.
Yeah. Though, listen, that's really well said, right? Domain experience, relationships, deep domain experience and relationships
Absolutely.
matter. And I think we all forget, it's software as a service. So service at the end just doesn't mean it's a, well, here's, you can license the code as a service or access to it, but it's also you have to service your enterprise customers. No one wants to work with anyone that's not servicing their account, period. They're not going to care if you have the greatest AI features or not. And I think that's important for the VMS guys that are out there that are running these businesses. Don't forget to service your customers. It's critical. I love this statistic. Is this was like 2 weeks ago. Um, Anthropic announces that they're fully up to speed on how to code in COBOL. And so I know how to code in COBOL. It's what I was educated in algorithm development. So I'm dating myself. IBM stock dropped by 13% that same day.
Yeah.
And so software development is repeatable patterns at best. And this is where AI can really come in and make a fundamental difference and change to enable your teams to focus on what matters in the business. And critical thinking is one of them. Servicing your customers is another one of them. I think we lose sight of that, and that is the reality. So I agree. Like we're running towards something, we don't know where this is going to end, but it's also a massive monumental shift. I mean, Jeremy, you remember when we shifted from designing, desktop applications to web applications, and suddenly mobile applications came in, and you'd hear the argument, "Oh, no one will ever use a screen that size. How dare they?" Now it's like we design mobile first.
Yeah. No, absolutely. And I think that was important when we were working together, and I know that we both wore gray, but but I think that was an important mindset back then, and I think it's critical now. Like if you're not adaptive, if you're not agile, and I know agile means a bunch of things, and even agile as a philosophy is changing, but the agile mentality, just something's going to change tomorrow, and it's going to impact you, and you just need. And again, there can be a lot, and I'm conscious of that where I, because it can come so fast, and I have been a sponge for all things AI, and I'm generally up to on this on the trends. But there's times when I'm like, okay, now it's just time to shift away from that and just watch something that's fun to watch, because it can be a little bit too much. So I'm going to caveat that by saying, within reason, or find somebody who geeks out on this stuff and likes to talk about it, and chat with them. But keep tabs on what's going on, because literally the world, like OpenClaw, it's been around for a month and maybe a month and a bit, and fundamentally it's changing things. And there's yeah, and yeah, even today there's new things coming out where Google has the new CLI, and fundamentally it's going to be changing things. And so what does that mean? And so I find every single day I'm like, okay, well, this new technology, what does that mean? How does that impact my product strategies? What does that mean for my customers? And again, it can be a lot. So that's the thing where I think my hope is that we just don't all become like overloaded, and all, because I'm sure there's mental health issues that are just waiting to happen, and I'm sure I'm probably going to be a good example of it. But yeah, but like I said, things change so fast now that if you're not watching, then I don't know how you keep up, to be honest. Yeah.
Yeah, good point. Jeremy, how do people get a hold of you if they have follow-up questions?
Yeah, LinkedIn. I think Jeremy List at LinkedIn, or on LinkedIn. You can definitely catch me there, and I think you have my contact information as well. So if anybody wants to grab me, yeah, I'd be happy for a chat, happy for an intro.
Awesome. Thank you, Jeremy. Ladies and gentlemen, AI doesn't reward speed. It rewards judgment, and judgment comes from clarity. And guess what? Not noise. If this conversation helped you think more clearly about how AI fits inside your product organization, I invite you to subscribe to the podcast Built to Hold. Each episode is designed for founders and owners building vertical market software companies that are meant to last. Thanks for listening, and I'll see you in the next episode.